Hi, I'm Tim Weaver from CMVG, and I'm here with Andy Kelly from CMVG. How you doing, Andy?
Hello, good.
So, Max Payne 3, you've been waiting for it for well, it seems like years. We got Rockstar on development duties, and we trust them implicitly. So, Andy, the big question: how does this compare to the previous Max Payne games?
Well, yeah, I just recently finished Max Payne 3 after a long 11 to 12 hours. It's a really long game. Comparatively with the previous games, they've captured the slow motion combat is almost identical. The controls are the same, even the HUD is the same. There's no regenerating health, so they haven't made concessions to modern gaming, which is good. So it does feel on a mechanical level like Max Payne. They really have nailed it, and with the added Rage Engine's Euphoria physics, the way enemies die, which sounds slightly disturbing, is really satisfying because every death is unique with real physics, and it's not just like flappy ragdoll limbs. They will die in like convincing ways, crash into scenery, smash through windows and stuff, all in glorious slow motion. So they really have captured the sort of the gun ballet that is Max Payne. But where they really haven't captured the Max Payne feel is with the atmosphere and story, whereas the first two games, written by Sam Lake from Remedy, had a sort of they were sort of miserable and hard-boiled and film noirish, but they also had a sort of insanity and a slightly surreal sense of humour. And there was fourth wall shattering references to the fact that you were playing a video game, and that made the game feel really weird and dreamlike and odd, and gave it sort of like a unique feeling. This, in comparison, they've made it into like a very straightforward revenge story. It feels like a Hollywood action movie. They've turned, Max is now one of the bleakest characters in any game. He's like super serious and depressed. So in one respect, they have captured the Max Payne vibe in terms of the combat and the gunplay, but the general ambience and story is very different and much more straight-laced.
Okay, so in the first games, we had bullet time. We had that kind of mechanic which, when the first Max Payne came out, the Matrix was still hot, and Max Payne had its own version of bullet time, and that was not its gimmick exactly, but it was certainly one of the things that people remember most fondly about those games. What have Rockstar brought to the party for Max Payne 3?
Well, yeah, in 2001, bullet time was a novelty, and it was really impressive. In the interim years between that and this game coming out, every shooter has slow motion under different names: focus mode, adrenaline mode. So that's what's disappointing about this in a way, is that they have only focused on a really stripped back combat system where it's just slow motion. You can't even throw grenades despite enemies throwing them at you constantly. And it's quite a basic weapon set as well. It's all sort of shotguns and assault rifles. There isn't anything too outlandish. So it's a very pure shooter with not many gimmicks. And the slow motion gimmick, if you can call it that, obviously has lost impact over the years. So the game suffers from being too long. It's kind of one note, and it would have benefited from being maybe 6 or 7 hours long. But it's actually more like 11 to 12 hours long, and it's really hard as well. So the last few hours are really grueling, really punishing, and the fatigue sets in if you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again.
So it's interesting that, because Rockstar, make long games traditionally, but they make sandbox games. Whereas this, I think they've deliberately tried to pare it back and make it, very linear and very sort of, simplistic in some ways, but you feel maybe that's to the detriment of the game?
Yeah, they're trying to tell a really focused linear story here, which obviously isn't Rockstar's strong point. I mean, GTA 4 was like 30 hours long, Red Dead was about the same, and the linearity of it, there's cutscenes all the time, there's constant breaks from gameplay, even stuff like moving from room to room. There's a cutscene, there's constant it's wrestling the controls away from you constantly. So whilst the story has this great momentum and as environments change a lot, you feel like you're only playing half the game sometimes because it's constantly switching to a cutscene. So it's perhaps too cinematic for its own good.